What's up, guys, and welcome to Love Has No Limits. I'm your host, Sam 2.
And I'm your other host, Monica. And the reason he is Sam number 2 is because we have two guests coming on today named Joy and Sam number 1.
So, do you want to say hi, guys?
Hi, guys. I'm Joy. Hi, and I'm Sam 1 for the podcast.
Yeah, Sam 1. And Sam 1 is also British as well. So we're going to get into their story because they sent us an email, which I was so excited to read because there's a little thing at the end that I will let them talk about. So if you guys want to just tell everyone a little bit about you guys and your relationship story.
We met online about 2016, so about 4 years ago.
Okay.
And I was in London at the time working, and Joy was in California. And so we were long distance I guess we're still technically long distance right now.
Wait, before I get sorry for butting, how did you guys meet? Like, what online thing did you meet? Was it like a Tinder app or like was it something else?
It was like a chat app.
Oh, awesome!
Yeah.
Right. Okay. And how long were you talking for before you kind of decided to make it official and actually start dating?
So that's actually kind of vague. Like from when we started talking on that chat app, there was never a point that we just said like, oh, like we're dating now or anything like that. Like we spoke for like a year before we actually met in person.
Right. And then it was just kind of natural progression, was it? Like you didn't, like Sam,
It's
you
an
never said,
unspoken thing,
yeah, you never said, Joy, will you be my girlfriend? It was just kind of you were together.
Yeah, when I came, so I went to California, after about a year.
Okay.
And when I got back, actually Joy kind of straight up asked, because everyone kept asking her, I think, so are you boyfriend and girlfriend? Yeah, it was like friends and family that prompted me to kind of like, I was like, yeah, we're a thing, right? Like, I know it's kind of like unspoken and like it's kind of understood between the two of us.
But you just wanted the answers.
What? Yeah, my friends were kind of just like, why did you never introduce him as your boyfriend? You just kind of were like, oh, this is Sam. So yeah.
Okay, so wait, because we jumped a little bit. So Sam, you flew over to California to see Joy then?
Yeah, so it kind of, everything just fit together very well. Like I was already planning a road trip in California before we kind of started talking seriously.
Okay.
That summer anyway. And so, yeah, everything kind of fell into place. So I was doing my master's the year that we were speaking.
Right. Okay. And how did it kind of lead up to you eventually flying over? I mean, obviously you were talking for about a year on kind of a chat site, and then, obviously I'm assuming eventually moved over to like FaceTime and Skype and all that kind of stuff. But at what point did you say like, okay, like this is serious, let's actually try and figure out a way for us to meet?
I can't remember. Do you remember when? Well, yeah, you said you were already planning to come here anyways, like before us even like talking or anything. So you started mentioning. So actually, initially, your plan was to come here for Comic-Con. Do you remember?
Right.
Yes. You totally scrapped that, and you were like, "That sounds better." And then I think you were kind of nervous to ask me to like join you because obviously we had never met or anything like that.
Yeah.
And so it was on WhatsApp. He just sent like a message saying like, "Oh, I'm starting to plan blah blah blah." And it wouldn't be bad if like you joined or anything or something like that. And I remember
Okay. That's awesome. And so the first time you kind of planned to go to Comic-Con together, which did you say that didn't happen?
Well, it ended up being, I think, a decision between Disneyland and Comic-Con and Disneyland won.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Disney has to win.
Disney would definitely win for Monica. So you first met for the first time, I'm assuming, kind of 2017?
Yes.
Okay, and what was it like when you met for the first time? Was it as expected? Like, were you guys as you expected each other to be?
Was it awkward? Was it natural? Like, how did it go?
Okay, so this is kind of funny because, so we've been talking like for a year, but so I'm Filipino, and I don't know if you guys are really familiar with that culture.
Yeah, not too much, but yeah.
Yeah, and so my parents are kind of like, I don't know, they're very like conservative and like they don't understand this whole online thing.
Okay.
So I didn't talk about him much at all, really. But obviously I was like living with my parents, and so I had to mention it to them that I was going. And I was like, oh my gosh, how do I say this? Like, how do I say I'm going to meet this random guy I met online? And so I kept like trying to bring it up, and it never I never could say it. And so eventually I just said, oh, I'm going to go to LA with my best friend.
Right. Okay.
And we're a friend, I said. And then before I even said this, I didn't even tell my best friend that I was going to drag her along. But
so it's like, all right, I'll
so
go.
she's kind of brought into it.
She was okay with it because I was like, oh my God, I need to. Like, I can't. My parents are probably not going to let me do this if I'm just going by myself. They're going to think I'm going to get like murdered or something.
Definitely. I mean, we're a completely different generation too, you know, and due to technology and stuff, like we've got completely different views on dating and kind of the online world and stuff compared to our parents, don't we? So, you know, it's completely natural that they're a bit like my parents, Monica's parents, were super nervous before we first met, and it's completely understandable. Like we were kids at the time; it was almost 5 years ago.
Yeah, that's crazy for you guys.
Yeah. So you first met. I'm assuming. Did you pick him up from the airport in LA?
No, so he was already in LA. So at that time, I was still actually in school.
Okay.
Yeah, so I was in the middle of finals week when he first landed in LA. It was like June 4th he was there in LA.
Okay.
Yeah, so he kind of explored the city by himself. And then after that, we met June 9th. So that's when me and my friend, we took like a bus down in LA. And he was staying at a hotel. And when we first got there, initially Sam had planned to have this little breakfast or something like that, but he woke up late and so he didn't.
Oh,
the time.
That's exactly what Monica would do. It's jet lag plus you're just super late sleeper, aren't you?
Yeah, I never had breakfast because I just cannot wake up before like that's over.
And yeah, you got been on a bus kind of overnight, and so you weren't really in the mood for like a boozy brunch in a hotel room. Yeah, but yeah, the bus ended up coming early, and so we were waiting in the lobby. And my friend was sitting down so my best friend actually saw him first before I did, because I was facing away. I was facing my friend, and my friend was facing like the lobby area,
right,
where the elevator were. And I guess Sam didn't know that we were already there, and he was trying to run down to go to this like nearby Walgreens or something to get like breakfast.
Right.
So,
okay.
Yeah. And then my friend goes, "That's him," and I said, "No." Like I didn't want to turn around. Like I
you were nervous.
Yeah, and then when I saw him, I don't know, I ran to him, and I don't remember anything. I think I squealed. I have no clue, but yeah.
It's like a blur. That's like when I met Sam, all I could do was talk, and I'm usually like pretty shy, but all I could do was like, "Oh my God, you're real! Hi, you smell good!" Like, blah, blah, blah.
And like generally, I'm the opposite. Like generally, I'm kind of the outgoing, confident one. But when we first met, all I could say was I was like, "Is the house okay? You smell good."
Like you can't plan. Like when you first meet, you can't really like plan what you're gonna do because your emotions just like go crazy, and you don't know what to expect.
So Sam, what did you do when she ran at you, completely taking you by surprise when you were going to get breakfast?
Yeah, I think I'm kind of pleased that I didn't know they were there, and I was kind of unknowingly going down to get food, because it kind of meant I didn't have that, nervous build-up.
Definitely. Yeah. You didn't kind of anticipate it, so you didn't have to kind of worry and get nervous about the whole thing. Yeah, but then I don't know. For me as well, it's kind of a blur. But I remember just it's weird how people, no matter how many photos you see, or even talking on like FaceTime a lot, how some people don't look the same, in person. Yeah. And it's always kind of a bit more kind of exciting to meet someone in person. And you're like, wow, that's, Yeah. So you weren't kind of so Joy was completely kind of unexpected. Like you guys kind of weren't as you expected to look and kind of like feel and kind of see and talk to and stuff like that. Well, something was completely different, was it? I should clarify in a good way. Oh, definitely. Well, we got that because obviously you guys are together.
And I feel like it's kind of the same with Sam and I too. Like Sam was different in real life than to the pictures, but like in the best way possible. Like everything was just better in real life.
And it's not like I kind of made it. It's not like I tried to kind of hide who I was or kind of make myself different, because we video called so many times and stuff. I guess just people sometimes come across different in real life. Yeah. So how was it when you first met? Was it awkward? I think there was a little bit of awkwardness because of the fact that my best friend was there, like third wheeling. Right. So, of course. So we even planned to, she was like, okay, I'm going to film you guys. It's going to be so cute. But obviously, like, it just all happened. Yeah. But so it was kind of like awkward at first because, like, obviously, like, we hugged and stuff. And I don't know if we were talking. Did we talk or what? I think it was a silent elevator ride up to my room.
like awkward like glances at each other.
Oh,
I love it. I love it.
So at what point, if you remember, at what point did it kind of start to feel natural and start to feel like, you know, how it does on FaceTime and you know, start to feel like you, basically?
I think pretty quickly. Like us sitting around, like you had like gifts, right, to give us or something like that. Yeah. After like just talking for a bit, and then I think my best friend kind of like excused herself and went to the bathroom, but she was there for a really long time. She was FaceTiming.
She was trying to help you. She's like, all right, I'll give you your alone time.
That's a good friend.
And then from there, it was like we were like in bed. We were like using like the Snapchat pictures, like just as if like we've known each other. Like this wasn't the first time we met. Like, it was crazy. Right. And then the next few days, we're in Disneyland, so that kind of like you immediately become more easy with each other then because you're excited and you're doing right.
Definitely. And you have a common interest and something to talk about, don't you?
Yeah.
So you guys have been dating for, you said 3 years now. And in your email, you mentioned something super exciting, which literally made me like so excited for you. You guys said that you are going to be moving in together. So how is that happening? Because obviously with visas and stuff like that, and most people like do it when they get married and all that kind of stuff. How are you guys moving in together? Where are you moving in and all that?
I'm doing a PhD actually in UC Irvine, so just outside LA now.
Right. Okay. So you're over on a student visa.
Yes.
Fantastic. Awesome. Okay. And how long is that due to last?
So I just finished my second year and I have 4 years left.
Fantastic.
Oh wow. So then what do you want to do like after the 4 years is up? Do you think that you'll stay in California, or do you think you guys will go to the UK, or what do you think you're going to do?
I'm not sure. Well, I know that I can stay for another year doing work experience if I want with my visa. But well, I don't know if Joel wants to answer that. I don't think we know.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm always like the one kind of like saying like, oh, I feel like I'm too thinking about the future. Like, oh, what about this? What about this? But we both said that like obviously we're not gonna like make everything like set in stone, saying like, oh, we're gonna get engaged like this, and then then it kind of like takes away like the excitement. So we, obviously like within that time frame, probably like I don't know, Sam, are you gonna propose?
No pressure.
Yeah.
Well, we're not trying to ask you guys to get engaged now. We're just we don't want to kind of force anything, but honestly, I completely get what you're saying, Joy, because in a long distance relationship, you've got to kind of plan ahead, haven't you, to a certain extent, because there's no point doing all of this and traveling those thousands and thousands of miles and spending those thousands and thousands of dollars if there isn't an end kind of thing in sight, is there?
And if one of you was like hooked on, like if Sam and I, when we first started dating, if Sam was hooked on living in the UK and I was hooked on living in America, like there wouldn't really be a point because things wouldn't work out in the future. So it's stuff you kind of have to talk about in the beginning. So even if it's a little awkward, like it's still something that's important, but at least you guys have like a few years to really figure it out and get to know what you want to do.
Definitely. And do you guys feel like you had to kind of move really quickly in the relationship when it first started, like faster than a general relationship because of the distance?
I kind of get what you're saying, but it didn't feel like we were moving quickly, but it felt like the relationship was has been established longer than it was, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I'm with you. Okay, I probably put that pretty poorly. Instead of saying kind of the relationship moved quickly, I mean like you had to kind of get to know each other. Obviously, when you first met and you realized that this could potentially be a serious thing, you kind of you realize that it's got to get serious pretty quick, and you've got to kind of iron out where do we want to live, do we want to have kids, and basically make sure that your futures kind of match. I think a lot of things kind of slotted into place without us necessarily trying to. Good. So like we met when I was still in London, but I was moving back to Cardiff, like I said, for my master's that September. So I was back in like rural South Wales, living at home with like very little to do. So I think it would have been much harder to sustain the relationship if I'd been super busy in London. Definitely. Yeah. Like in those early stages when you're not kind of serious.
Yes, yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So as a real brief quick overview, you guys met in 2016. Well, you started talking on a chat site in 2016. 2017, Sam number one, you were already having kind of a holiday, as we call it, or a vacation, as the Americans call it, in LA. Joy, you obviously got a bus over to visit Sam, and things kind of went from there. So you've been together now, I'm assuming, about 3 years or so, have you?
Yes.
And now, Sam, you are obviously on a tourist visa, not on a tourist visa, sorry, on a student visa over in near LA, going to university there, and you're planning to kind of move forward from there.
Yeah.
That's really exciting.
It's so hard because obviously, like with Sam and I, we didn't have to really because we work online. So when it had to be like jobs or like school, we didn't really have to worry about that. But it's amazing that there's things that such as like a student visa where you guys could still be together legally. Because obviously most people get visas by getting married and all that. So it's so good to hear that you guys can actually, move in together now rather than having to rush anything or anything like that.
Yeah. And Sam, was part of the motivation for going to university in America joy? Or was that always a plan?
It kind of, like I said, it kind of fit. People always say that because when they say, oh, your girlfriend's in California, oh, you're in California, oh, well, that's why you're in California, right? And I'm like, well, kind of. Like, it would have been difficult if I'd gotten into a university that wasn't in California, like having to make that decision. But again, like I said, it kind of all just fit together. I think we were kind of in the point in the relationship where we were having to have that think about how we were going to progress.
Yeah. When
I actually got into the university, so suddenly we didn't have to have such a serious think about it because I had a route to the US.
Definitely. I bet that was such a relief when you got into university, you got the acceptance letter and you just thought, I'm assuming that was just a huge weight taken off your shoulders, was there?
Yeah, no, definitely. And I reckon you as well.
Awesome. So just to close up, firstly, thank you so much, guys, for coming on the podcast.
Sharing the story.
Yeah, sharing your super... I mean, how many miles is it? Have you worked out how many miles it is from Cardiff in the UK to California?
I think it's about 5,500 as a crow flies.
Wow.
That really is crazy, isn't it? It literally shows. Insane. I mean, I know this is kind of punny because this is the name of the podcast, but it really shows that love has no limits. It does. It really does. So just any kind of closing remarks, guys. Do you have any advice for people in long distance relationships that are kind of in a similar position to us?
I don't know. I think staying, to always talk to one another is key, obviously.
Definitely.
Communication is definitely key.
Yeah, because it's very easy to, I think when we've not necessarily had fallings out, but we've always just kept talking and kept FaceTiming. We never had, so we've spoken every day for 3 years.
Yeah. Do you know what's crazy? Our kind of number one piece of advice for long distance couples or people getting into a long distance relationship is exactly the same as yours. We always say kind of our number one piece of advice is communication is absolutely key.
Oh, yeah.
And if you have an argument or something, obviously it's really, really easy to neglect a long distance relationship considering, you're not actually physically with each other all the time. So if you have an argument, it's so easy to just ignore your partner and just kind of not talk for a while.
Yeah.
But that's the number one thing that you need to do is if you have an argument or just a bit of a tiff or, a bit of a falling out, you really need to kind of sort it out, especially before, we always kind of make it a point to sort out any discrepancies, any kind of fallings out before the end of the day, don't we?
Yeah. Usually within 5 to 10 minutes we have to get it figured out.
Literally. So yeah, guys, Sam and Joy, Sam number one, and Joy, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. It's really been interesting
and for sharing
hearing your story
for other LDR couples, because I'm sure people will be able to relate and look up to you guys as well, because obviously you'll be moving in together. So it just shows that love has no limits. It
does, and we'd really love to keep up to date on your relationship. As kind of as Sam, you're in university in LA and kind of I'm assuming you guys are discussing right now about moving in together and kind of what your future looks like from that perspective. So as you get that kind of stuff ironed out, we'd love to potentially have you on the show again.
Have a follow-up.
Yeah, and have a follow-up if that's something you'd be interested in.
Yeah, of course.
Awesome. Okay, well, thank you so much again, guys. And to our listeners, thank you so much for listening to this. Hopefully you found Joy and Sam's story as interesting as we did.
Yes.
And like we said before, it literally goes to show that love has no limits. So, if you want to be on the show yourself, please email in lovehasnolimitspodcast@gmail.com. Tell us all about your story, ask for advice, give questions, ask questions, whatever it is. And we'll talk to you guys soon.